Hello beautiful, welcome back to my channel and welcome to this video where we are going to talk about the top 3 in every category, but now we have come to eyeshadow palettes. I did do a full video with like top 3 in every category, lips, face, cheeks, all of it, and I will link that video down below in case you want to see everything else. But when this video idea was floating around YouTube and internet a couple of years ago, I actually did this specific tag video because I didn't think that I could just name 3 eyeshadow palettes as my top 3 eyeshadow palettes, because eyeshadow palettes is my absolute favorite thing about makeup. It's my absolute favorite thing to review here on YouTube. So I decided to do a mini tag answering a couple of questions about eyeshadow palettes so that I can mention a couple more. I have more than 3 favorites. I'm also drinking a little bit of coffee. This mug is the Mexico mug from Starbucks. I bought this when me and Heather Austin were in Mexico in 2022, right? I think we were there in like February. But anyways, I have different categories. So I'm gonna use the same categories as I had last time when I did this, and I'm just gonna pull out pretty much 3 palettes to answer each question. And if you want to do this, if you're a creator or if you just want to answer this down in the comments, I would love to hear your thoughts about this, because I will say I did create this because I wanted to be like mentioning more than 3 eyeshadow palettes. But if you want to see the other categories, like I said, it will be linked down below. Let me pull up the different categories so I don't miss any. And also I will be linking all the palettes down below that I'm mentioning, and I will also mark with a little star if the palettes were giving to me as PR. If there's not a star behind it, it means that I bought it myself. If I have any affiliate links, affiliate codes, that will also be down below. And if you do shop through my links or if you do use my codes, I do earn a small commission, and thank you so much for supporting my channel. I also wanted to say that I did film this little tutorial for my member exclusive makeup tutorial of this month. You were asking me if I could do something with blue without it totally taking over and just being too much. Like, how do you work with blue if you want to work with blue but don't want it to be wearing you instead of you wearing it? So this is not only showing you how you could do something colorful without it being like all the way to the brows, it is also a way to show you how you can incorporate a winged liner if you have more aging hooded eyes like I do. So if you want to have some tips and tricks, that video is already live on my channel. And if you want to read more of my membership, that will also be down in the description box. There's like a little link. And if you're not joining, nothing will change on my channel. We will still have 4 to 5 videos a week. Don't worry about it. Okay, so these are the categories. I'm just going to use the exact same categories I did last time. Top 3 neutral eyeshadow palettes. Some of these has changed a lot. Some of these have not changed at all. I'm bringing up the same ones. And some of these questions, I'm answering the same brand, but I'm just trying to show you like a new or another favorite or a more recent favorite. With neutral eyeshadow palettes, one of them is the same, and that is actually the Eternal Eclipse by Lunar Beauty. I really think that this is such an interesting, dramatic, and fun neutral palette. I mean, this is a neutral palette. It has grays. I don't really do grays, but these brown, neutrally chocolatey mattes are a full row of chocolatey mattes. There is a dark blue, there is a blue shimmer, there is a black with like glitter in it, there is a black metallic, there are some silver. I really think that Manny did something with this palette. This palette really has stood the test of time. I think this is a beautiful palette. It is a great packaging, a great like theming, and a great execution of the theming as well. I just think that this palette is beautiful, and this is still one of my favorite neutral palettes. I think this is beautiful. Another favorite neutral palette of mine, and I think a lot of people would have guessed this, and this is the Blend Bunny All Done Up. This is the smallest Blend Bunny palette as of date, and this one has, per usual, a deep row, a mid-tone row, and a pastel row. It does have a black and a white, and it has more warmer, grungy leaning colors like this mustard. My favorite combo when it comes to neutrals is yellow with brown, and I have this full row here, and then there's some corresponding shimmers, and we do have a row of almost like sage greens. This is the cool tone row. So you have 2 cool tone rows and 3 more leaning a little bit more warm tone, and this one is a green iridescent topper shade as well. That's just a really interesting shade. Overall, this is incredible quality, incredible palette, and I just think that this is just, it's a great palette. I love this one, and the looks that I've done with this one is amazing. Now I'm gonna mention one that I'm bending the rule. I'm bending the rules a little bit because I realize that there are some people that are gonna say this isn't a neutral palette, but for me, this is kind of leaning into the neutral palette territory, and this is the Stone and Rock palette by Oden. This one is a green, like almost like nature-esque green with the mosses and this like more grungy, yellowy, almost like the kind of algae water that you do not want to swim in. Same here, black, white. There are some more taupey, browny colors. There's a dark brown here. There are some browns over here. There's like a almost gold, like a muted gold. I just really appreciate this take on almost like neutral or like nature inspired greens together with more neutral colors with the brown and the black and the white. I really love this color story. I think it is an innovative take on an almost neutral palette. And for me, someone who loves colors, I feel like this is somewhat neutral, and I also love the contrast in this one. Plus, all three of these brands have some of my favorite like eyeshadow formulas on the market, which also makes it even easier for me, of course, to love their neutral palette because like I already love their formulas. The next question, I put top 3 rainbow / colorful eyeshadow palettes. And for me, I am gonna pick rainbow palettes, but I realized that if you are not a color lover like me, and if you are filming this tag, you might not have even 3 rainbow palettes, but I do. I have over 10 rainbow palettes, so for me, I can definitely pick a top 3. But if you're doing this tag and you're leaning more into neutral makeup, just swap it out for colorful palettes, and that's why I put this question like this. But I am going to show you my top 3 rainbow palettes, and I am in the process of filming a... It's taking a long time because, like I said, I have over 10 and I'm filming B-roll and it's just a lot. I'm filming a battle of the rainbow palettes, but I'm gonna let you know now that if I had to only save 3 rainbow palettes, these would be the 3 that I would save. But with that being said, I do have even more rainbow palettes that I really, really love. One palette that technically should have made the list, but it has been discontinued, but it's coming back in a new format, and that is the Vitality palette by Unearthly Cosmetics. I love Vitality, but I didn't bring it in here because right now you cannot buy it and it's coming out in a new version, so I thought it'd be stupid for me to show you something that's like, it doesn't even exist anymore. I'm trying to show you things that I think are available, and if I'm showing you something that's not, I'm sorry. Again, Oden. This is Solmåne 2. I am Swedish, if you're wondering how to pronounce this. Solmåne. Sol means sun and måne means moon. So it's the sun moon palette. And this is just a very innovative and like almost whimsical take on a rainbow palette. There is a black here, there's a dark blue, a dark purple. There are some like, this is so close. I don't know, in real life these are so close, but I realized, well, they're pretty close here as well. It's like a yellow leaning orange or an orange leaning yellow. I think this is an orange, but I also think that like if I put the yellow next to it, do I have something good? But if I put a yellow next to this one, I have here one that's showing a little bit better. You would definitely say that, oh, that's a little bit more like leaning a little bit more on the orangey side. I love those kind of colors that it's like, it's a yellow or orange depending on what you compare it to. That is one of my favorite colors, and that's why I decided to do that kind of a color for the brushes for my own brush brand. This is Cinch Beauty. It's always linked down below, and I love a color like that. There's some blue and teals. This is like a rainbow palette that's almost not a rainbow because you kind of have to try to imagine these as greens, otherwise it's not a full rainbow. But I really love this palette. I think this is such a fun twist again on a rainbow palette, and something that I've learned now that I've just looked through my rainbow palettes and just been like, what are my actual favorites, is that I like a rainbow palette with a twist. I appreciate a classic rainbow palette, but when it comes down to it, I kind of want them to turn and twist and tweak the rainbow a little bit so that it becomes a little bit more interesting. And I really think that Solmåne did that, and I really think that the Nomad and Monteverde Cloud Forest palette did that. This is one of my favorite palettes of last year. This is my favorite palette from Nomad Cosmetics. I think it is an incredible palette. This is a palette inspired by the rainforest, by the way, in Costa Rica, right? I'm pretty sure it's Costa Rica. So that's why it's laid out like this. It is a green monochromatic palette mixed with a neon matte rainbow palette. So if you cover all the greens in this palette, all that is left is a neon rainbow palette, and if you cover up those, all that is left is a green monochromatic palette. And this palette is laid out so that it looks like the rainforest. You can see here in the front, looks like the rainforest, and then like the butterflies and the animals and the tropical flowers are just peeking through the greens. I love this palette. I think it is so genius. I think it is such a cool way of bringing in neons together with this green rainforest inspired palette. I really, really enjoyed this, but I can't, how many times I've said that? It's in the top 3. You get the gist of it. I think it's really, really nice. And I think like the master of rainbow palettes in the beauty, like in the beauty community, is Monochromatic Cosmetics, and the Surge is my favorite palette. Is it? It's my favorite colorful palette, I think, from Monochromatic. I'm thinking, is it? I just think that she did something with this color. You can see I'm questioning myself. This one has had a little tumble, so one of my shadows is a little broken. This is the same, again, format as she had with her other one, but this one is a little interesting because it is a grungy rainbow. Grungy rainbow with the grungy pastels, a row of like really nice shimmers, and a row of matte neons. Again, I just love a pop of neon. I just think that that is so fun and so interesting. And I really feel like, again, she did something with the rainbow here. She almost made it a little graffiti, like grungy. I mean, you can tell by the front as well. I just think that this is a really cool color story. All 3 of these are just very interesting and innovative and just imaginative ways of interpreting a rainbow. And that's why they're my favorites. Top 3 monochromatic eyeshadow palettes. First of all, I have to mention Colourpop. I just brought out 2 palettes here, and I brought out 2 different palettes than the ones I showed before. I will leave the video also in the description box. Last time I did this video, like when I did this tag the first time, because I answered all these questions, and some of them I had the same palette, some of them I have different, but I still agree that all the palettes that I mentioned are good palettes. But I decided this is actually the palette that I'm wearing on my eyes today. This is the Blue Velvet palette from Colourpop. I think Colourpop makes really good monochromatic palettes, and if you want to try a monochromatic color story and you don't want to break the bank, I definitely suggest Colourpop. This is the Blue Velvet. It is available at the Colourpop website, but it's also available at Target. I bought mine at Target. Then I have to give a shout out to the Orchid You Not. I don't even know if this one is available still, but it is so good. If you want to add these kind of berry dark tones to your collection, if you're eyeing the, what was that melt palette, She's in Parties, buy this one instead. It is as good, but just so much more affordable. I also wanted to give a quick shout out to a palette that is one of the palettes that I have reached for the most from BH Cosmetics. I'm gonna mention the other one as well. And this one is now back in stock, or at least they restocked these Birthstone. It's the Birthstone collection. They did restock these, and this citrine one has a color story that I love. Yellow and brown. I told you before, I love yellow and brown. This one could have been mentioned in my favorite like neutral palettes as well, but this is a bright canary yellow shimmer, so maybe not. These are so nice, and they are back in stock. And the citrine one I feel is a monochromatic yellow done right, because everything is leaning yellow and just goes so well together. And I just wanted to give a quick shout out to these because they have been restocked. And if you had missed any of these, I do have a full playlist where I am doing a look each month with these for the entire year of 2021, I think. I think these are great. These are nice quality. These are affordable as well. Again, if you wanted to dive into something like that. And then I wanted to mention this because I feel like this is one of the most well done monochromatic palettes in my collection. And this is slightly bigger. This is from the By Beauty Bay brand. I think this is the, Earthy palette. This one, they didn't do the other palettes as good as this one. This one is light, like really, really light to really, really dark, and in shimmers and in mattes, cool tone, warm tones, bright ones, more muted ones, but everything is leaning green, everything is very cohesive, and everything is really nice quality as well. And this is also very, I'm really telling you 3 affordable monochromatic palettes. But I really like this one. If you wanted a nice green monochromatic palette, I think this one is better than any of the green monochromatic palettes that Colourpop has done so far. Although I will say the In the Limelight, I think it was called, the palette that came and went, like they already discontinued it. That one was really nice too. If you see that one come back, I do recommend that monochromatic lime green palette as well. I thought it was beautiful. Ooh, next one is top 3 small/mini eyeshadow palettes. And I want to give a quick shout out that I still agree that the Colourpop quads are some of the best special, they're not good for the money. These are good quality shadows that just happen to be affordable as well. This one is the one that I've been using the most as of late. This is the On the Mango. Again, love this kind of a color. It's like, is it yellow? Is it orange? next to the orange it looks yellow, but then if you put it next to a yellow, you're like, no, it's definitely orange. I just think that this is a really good quality shadows that I really like. But honestly, all the quads that I've tried from Colourpop have been good. I think they just, something about these quads, they're just really, really nice. I also wanted to mention that I still think, I just brought out the bunch here. The mini palettes by Natasha Denona, these are good, and I have, not everyone, but you can tell I have quite a few, and I really think that these are good quality. This mini Xenon is probably the one that's been the most used. This is like my companion palette when I travel, because I know I can deepen up and lighten up with this palette, and you can also do looks on its own, of course, with this one. There's just some really, really good ones, the one from Valentine's Day. There are neutral ones if you wanted to. If you like that color scheme of that last one that came out, the mini Starlet, which I said was like a mini pink taupe bridal palette, if you like that, I thought the quality was really nice of that one. These are really nice, and I have heard that the only ones that weren't as good quality as the normal big palettes from Natasha Denona was the mini Lila was apparently a dud. I have never owned it. And also the mini Sunset, which was the first one that came out, was apparently also a dud. And again, I never owned it. So if you have tried any of those and you weren't impressed, maybe give it one more chance, because these are really nice small palettes and you get a really nice formula for a little bit more of an affordable price tag than buying like a midi palette for, what are they now, 69 or something? They're a little bit up there. And the last mini palette I'm gonna mention is the Tartelette Mini Jewel. I've used this palette so much. I brought this one traveling. I've really been enjoying this. And this one needs a little glue. I forgot. That one was actually not glued in from the beginning either, and I forgot that it wasn't glued in. This one is the one that made me think, oh, Tarte makes really good eyeshadows. I should probably dive into more Tarte eyeshadows. And since then, I've been a little bit disappointed. I have not seen this formula in the other palettes that I've tried from Tarte, but this one, the Mini Jewel, it is really pretty. There is a dark one, there is a mid-tone one, there's a light one, there are 3 shimmers, 2 different formulas. Overall, it's a well-curated palette that is small and slim and nice at a fairly affordable price. This one is really good. And I am getting sweaty. Top 3 affordable drugstore eyeshadow palettes. And I think I'm gonna mention the same brands as I did last time. I'm just gonna No, actually, oh yeah, I mentioned Colourpop, BH Cosmetics, and Juvia's Place last time. I'm not gonna mention Colourpop because honestly, I have so many reviews of Colourpop, and overall, I think that Colourpop, for the most part, makes good affordable eyeshadows, and they're most of the time not good for the price. They're actually good, especially some of those like Monochromatic palettes, like they're really, really good. With BH Cosmetics, last time I mentioned Passion in Paris. I still stand by that palette. It is a beautiful palette. It was my favorite palette of the year that it was released, and I still think it's beautiful. Definitely recommend it. But I also wanted to bring this one out again. This is the Optimistic AF. It is just such a... If you like warm tones, I'm not saying you need it, but I'm saying that you should consider it. It's so beautiful. Again, these are back in stock. I will link them down below. This is a dark, dark, beautiful red. You can definitely deepen up with this. There is like red, orange, yellow, and also a little bit of brown down here. Plus, there is this one that is a white with a yellow sheen. So it's like one of those vanilla golds. Super, super beautiful. Very well composed palette and amazing quality. And you definitely are paying a low price tag for a very high quality palette. I also wanted to mention this one. I feel like this is one of the Juvia's Place palettes that are a little slept on. I was even thinking about bringing this one up in the favorite neutral palettes because honestly, there's something about this color story. Even though I don't like grays, there's something about this color story. The muted, burnt, clayey, terracotta, peachy coral. How many ways can you describe a color story like this? This is just a beautiful, again, neutral palette with a lot of variation, goes light to dark. If you like grays, you have 3 in here. Just really goes together, high quality. It's one of those 12 pans that I really hope that Juvia's Place will start doing again. I just think that this is one of the most underrated Juvia's Place palettes. And if you, again, if you like neutrals, this could be a way to incorporate just a little bit more of color into your looks without diving fully into like a blue eyeshadow palette. And I really like the quality of this one. Next, I'm gonna mention, is this a cheap eyeshadow palette? Not necessarily, but I will say, I think that this is $27. This is the Serenity palette from Cosmic Brushes. This was my favorite palette of last year. This was #1 in my yearly ranking, all the palettes that I tried. And $27 for this big of a palette from an indie brand that is this good quality. Yeah, that is an affordable, that is a bargain, that is something to be, that's something to recognize. There's a lot of brands that are charging $60 for their eyeshadow palettes that are sometimes as good as this and sometimes almost as good as this. So there's something to be had and something to be said about how good this palette is for $27. And this is not good for the price. This is an excellent palette. And if I didn't know the price tag for this one and you told me, oh, it's $45, I would have believed you and I would have nothing to say about that. I would have been like, that makes sense. So for that reason, I'm putting this in the affordable drugstore eyeshadow palettes. It's not drugstore, but it's definitely affordable for the size, for the quality. I am shocked that she's able to keep the price of Cosmic Brushes at where it's at. Last one is top 3 high-end / luxury eyeshadow palettes. I don't do a lot of luxury here on my channel, but I do dabble into some high-end brands, and I have nothing against paying more for quality. And I'm gonna mention one palette that I actually mentioned last time as well, because again, I think that this is one of the eyeshadow palettes that is most slept on in the beauty community, and that is the Viseart Attendu Violette palette. This is, again, if you like neutrals but you want to dive into some colors, this is the one. This is dusty mauve, like violet taupes mixed with purples, with some of the best purple mattes I've ever tried in my life. Like, this purple is such good quality. This is a dark purple and this is a vibrant purple and a pastel purple. 3 really nice purpley mattes. There is some really nice, this is more of a muted, almost like a muted violet with a slight gold sheen to it. And then you have a duochrome here. It's like an orchid purple with a blue shift. And then this dusty purple that is like almost a gray with a lavender shift. 2 really nice shades. I think they're beautiful. Are they as intense as some indie shadows? No, but these are good quality shimmers. And then one is more typical dark purple shimmer. And then you have some more neutrally taupey shades mattes on the top, good gradient, light to dark, and this more dusty lavender. I feel like this one is more purple and this one is leaning a little purpley pink, but a pastel. Honestly, why am I describing these shades to you? You have eyes, you can see. This is a beautiful palette. It's high quality. I need to use it again. It's so pretty. It's so pretty. Every time I bring this palette out, I'm just like, oh, we've had some good times. We've had some good times. You and I, we've had fun together, and I kind of want to bring it out again. Such a nice one. I also have to mention Natasha Denona. Natasha Denona is one of my absolute favorite eyeshadow brands, and this is my new favorite palette from Natasha Denona. This is the Yucca palette. This one came out this year. I'm just so excited about this palette. Again, this is almost a neutral palette for me, but I understand that if you only wear browns, you would look at this and be like, girl, this is not a neutral palette, this is a green palette. I think that these are quote-unquote wearable greens. They're very muted. Some of them are a little bit more poppy, but they're like grungy and almost like a little warm, mucky. There's some like swampy greens. They're beautiful. There's some really nice, interesting formulas when it comes to shimmers in here. There's some like really nice high shine, sparkly shadows. And all of this is just a beautiful color story and a beautiful packaging. It's a beautiful quality. And I will say, this is now my new favorite palette from Natasha Denona. It used to be the retro palette, and I'm fairly sure that that is the one that I mentioned last time when I did this tag 2 years ago, I think. But this is now my favorite one. I think it's absolutely beautiful. If this color story speaks to you, I don't think you'd be disappointed with this palette because it is absolutely stunning. Really, really like this one. And I also feel like it's such a innovative color story from coming from a somewhat luxury brand as Natasha Denona. I just think it's very, very interesting. I also want to mention this one. This isn't necessarily a luxury brand, but it is a fairly expensive palette. This is the Smoky Glam by Bella Beauté bar. This is a very big palette. Again, the quality of these shadows are so good. If Bella Beauté bar were to release a big palette like this again and they wouldn't send it to me in PR, I would buy it because of how much I love the quality of these shadows. They really went and did something with their quality. They had good shadows before, but now these are excellent. There's 1 or 2 shadows in here that are like a little weak, but overall I would say 99.9% of these are absolutely incredible. And I think the color story is really good. Would I have liked it to be a little bit more, bring it in a little bit, edit yourself? Definitely. But I still think that this is worth the price. Because yes, it is a little bit expensive, but it's also really, really good. You can see here, there's like a duochrome here. It's like a almost minty blue pink duochrome. I think you can see a little bit. Just incredible quality. It is expensive, but you're also getting a really good palette. So I'm gonna put this in the high end because it's nice. It's worth the money, but again, I realized that it's a little bit expensive. What I hate is when brands are like they're charging you the price, like the Dior Quints, and then you're just getting this weak eyeshadow with no pigment. What am I supposed to do with that? Anyways, I hope you liked the video. Please let me know what you think down below. All the information is going to be in the description box. Thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you again in a new video very soon. Bye!